Hey, it's Joe and Rick, and we got a message not too long ago from someone that follows us on our Instagram that asked if we could talk a little bit about dating when we first met versus dating now, and if there's any secrets or tips on just longevity in relationships. First of all, the message that we got, it came from this guy Cody Smith, or at Cody Smith Official. So first we want to thank you for just the nice message and really several nice messages. When we at Cody Smith Official, here you go. You're either to blame for this or you can be thanked for this. I'm not sure which. For anyone that doesn't know, Rick and I met in 1998. We've been together now for 20 years. It's kind of funny when people ask about tips to staying together for all of these years and this kind of stuff, because it's not like we have it so figured out. We've kind of figured out what works for us and what really works for our life.
Right.
Rick and I met at a bar in Panama City, the Fiesta, and we met in June of 1998. I mean, it's a pretty typical story that most people have, dating in 98 versus in 2019. When we met, there were no apps, there was no Grindr, there was no Scruff or any of these other, gay dating apps for gay men. I mean, we really didn't have access to anything like that back then, and all of that kind of came much later. What else could we talk about with dating back then?
Back then, it's like it's different now. It's just really different now. And I think the thing with social media and with just that kind of stuff that kind of is very easy. I don't think it was really easy to meet somebody back in the day when we met. Like, I really don't. I don't think it's like you just click on a site and it's
you couldn't be laying on your couch, click a button,
right.
And it's like, and you're talking to a guy.
Right.
You actually had to get out and go somewhere to do that. So as far as that goes, I mean, it's like, when we met someone, we met through a bar, or through friends, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Rick and I, when we were first dating, it's like the majority of our social life. I mean, it's like I had a group of friends, Rick had his friends, and we would go out, but it felt like Rick and I didn't spend as much time together as we probably should in the early days. It's like I was still, really attached to my social circle, and so was Rick.
Right.
We were a lot of times at the same bar, and but we didn't necessarily spend so much of our night together. When I say, like I had said earlier, it's not like we have it all figured out. There are things that we've kind of figured out along the way. One thing that was probably the most important thing as far as like our relationship goes. In the early days, we really let friends get between us, and we didn't necessarily put each other first. Really it's true. Just not feeling like we were making each other a priority. That was kind of a pretty tough lesson.
Yeah.
The third year that Rick and I were together was probably the roughest for us. We had a lot of breakups and get backs and breakups and get backs, and I felt like when I feel like whenever we would have one of these like really bad arguments or really bad fights, I was very quick to throw in a towel. I was very quick to throw out that we had to break up. I need to break up. We need to, we shouldn't be together, like this kind of stuff. And it was really sabotaging our relationship when we finally got back together and decided that we don't want to be apart. We really want to make this work, and we really want to like pull it together. We kind of decided that we had to take things off the table that we couldn't necessarily recover from. So, saying those like horrible, awful things to each other when you fought that you can't take back, or threatening a breakup just because you're fighting. It's like we kind of decided that it's like if we're gonna, like, we never say I want to break up, or that we should break up, or we should call it quits or something like that, unless we really mean it. And we haven't, really, since year 3, we haven't. that was kind of when it really kind of started working for us.
Right.
20 years ago, gay men and women and, you know, the LGBT community, I mean, we all had to go really to, I mean, for a safe place to go. You know, we went to the gay bar. We went to gay bars because that was the only place we really could go and meet people and just kind of hang out and be ourselves and just, I don't know, be crazy and dance and drink and have fun and just, you know, all of the great things that kind of came along with that. Okay, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that, shall we? We should talk about that. In the early days of us going out, it's like we would, we always, for the longest time, Panama City only had one gay bar, and it was the Fiesta and the La Royale Lounge. We would go, and honest to God, it had like a little triangular shaped stage, and I mean, it had like curtains and it really was like quite a show. And it was just so much fun. We just had the absolute best times. It's like we lived for some drag shows, and but those performers in the early days, oh my God, it was just so much fun. You know, you just get to a point, there are certain songs that when we hear them now, it's like we still, it's like you have such a memory with that it's like you don't even necessarily think of it as it being like this singer or that singer. It's like you think of the drag performer that actually performed those songs, and I love that we have those memories. We don't really drink that much anymore. We don't really go out so much anymore. We have become such homebodies and are so good with that. Like, we love that because it's, you know, it's just kind of another, I don't know, phase of our life, I think. But we look at those early days and the early times that we spent out in the bars, and we
would not trade that for.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. The good, the bad, the mistakes, the fights, the drama,
every part of it.
Every single bit of it. It's like there was just so much fun. I mean, we look back at all of it, and sometimes when we're driving around, we're like, oh my God, you remember when this happened or when that happened? And it just, so many fun times, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. You know, back 20 years ago, a lot of times when you would get together with your friends, you would sit and, you know, talk about how much you wish that we were a little bit more mainstream and that we were so much more accepted and not kind of these outcasts of society, where you always have to dream bigger than kind of what your mind's eye is and what your reality is. Because back in those days, it's like things that really weren't a part of our reality, we didn't dream for, we didn't even wish for, because it never was gonna happen.
Right.
But I mean, look at where we are now. I mean, you know, we've been married for 4 years, and is it 4?
4.
We've been married for 4 years, and it's like, you know, we have a house together, we have a life together, we have, you know, and you just never in a million years could dream that your life could be so good. And then, you know, here you are. I also want to talk about like the bar scene now versus then. Something that I think is kind of also interesting is back then, it's like you would go to the bars and the bars were just packed with people, and it was like Wednesday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, as far as our bars go. They were so packed, and it was just this huge, it was this huge gay crowd. And now because there is quite a bit more acceptance, a lot of times it's like you go to the gay bars and it's like the crowd isn't there like it used to be. People have the ability to go to so many other places that they don't always necessarily stop and support the gay community in the gay bars and the local performers, and I don't know, it's like you kind of romanticize those days, those early days when there was just such a big crowd, and those were the only places where gay people could go to have that safety and have that fun night. If you have the ability really to support the gay community and support the gay bars, because, you know, I feel like with gay being more and more mainstream, it's like the gay bars in areas like ours, not necessarily bigger cities, but in areas like ours, it's kind of like, they're kind of a dying breed. Okay, so as far as dating now, I don't know that we know so much about dating now. We haven't dated in 20 years. It's like we haven't gone out on a date since we met. So, you know, we don't know so much about dating now. But from friends that, you know, we've talked to, the only thing really that we kind of hear is that, you know, people's attention spans aren't necessarily as much there as they would like them to be, because people can just press a button and get in touch with a guy.
I think social media has made it almost too easy.
Maybe, yeah.
You know,
Social media and all the different apps.
And I think that
It's in some ways that's a good thing.
in some ways it's a good thing, but in some ways I think that it's kind of like there's so much out there
Yeah.
that it's almost like, well, this one could be better or that one could be better, or so it kind of like makes
It's always like the grass is going to be greener.
it's always going
So
to
it's
be
like-
better. Well, it's got to be better over here, and so that just makes, I think it kind of sets up for like very short-term relationships.
I mean, there are a ton of people that have met through apps, fallen in love, and they've been together forever. And
Right.
good for you. That's great. I'm not trying to knock anybody that's met on an app anyway.
No.
I mean, it's like I don't come from that world, but it's like, but I don't knock it. I think everybody, no. I mean, you know
Well,
what I
it's
mean?
like we didn't meet on an app, so
Yeah,
it's
have
like
no frame of
we
reference
kind
for
of
it.
like, I feel like we kind of like had it with the old-fashioned way, and it was like, you
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like you had to, I don't know, it's like you had to
You quoted me?
you had to put the work in
Yeah.
to even meet somebody.
The button, but back in the day, it's like you actually had to get your ass off the couch,
Put some effort.
put some effort in. As far as the longevity of our relationship, you know, we have been together a long time, but you know, one of the things that we've learned along the way is we have to put each other first. And you have good days, you have bad days, you have fights, you have, you know, celebrations, and you have all the good stuff too. You know, I think also people think that, you know, just because you've had a bad day, sometimes people are ready to throw in the towel. Or because you have a dry spell with your sex life, it's like you've got to throw in the towel, like it's not there. You know, the
Like something's missing.
yeah.
And a lot of times, it's not that anything's missing. It's just that
You have to
this
be in
is
for the
kind of
long
what
haul.
you're going through that day.
Yeah.
And you just have to deal with that and keep moving.
Yeah. The one thing that I think that people always have to do is I think people have to make up their own rules, and I think that you can't compare yourself to other people. We get really sweet messages and just such nice comments. We get a lot of comments from people saying, "Oh my gosh, I want, you know, a long kind of long loving relationship like you have," or something like that. And you know, it's that kind of sentiment. But the truth of the matter is, it's like you just start with one person and you make it work no matter what.
Perfect.
Simple.
Simple and perfect.
I don't know about perfect, but simple.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect. You're not perfect. We want to thank Cody for reaching out to us with not only just a really sweet message, but also kind of giving us a topic that we can discuss.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of nice to not have to come up with something ourselves. And if you're following us on Instagram, thank you very much. And turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so that way you don't
Miss anything?
miss anything there. Until next time, thanks for watching. All right, 1, 2. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Hey, it's Joe and Rick, and we are talking today about something. And I need to probably say what we're going to talk about. Okay. Okay, this sounds really bad.
Maybe you shouldn't say it.
No, I'm gonna say it. I'll probably sound like an idiot for saying this, but honestly, it's like, welcome to the ramblings of Joe and Rick. I feel like I always have like at least like 5 to 10 minutes of outtakes that I can kind of wheedle down to like, what is that? Is that even a word? Is wheedle a word? I can kind of whittle.
Whittle.
I can whittle. That's like-
W-I-D-D-L-E. Whittle.
What?
Whittle. W-I-D-D-L-E. Whittle.
I think it's W-H-I-T-T-L-E. Sort of like jit clampet bullshit right there. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is
Or
work.
some days I want to kill you.
Well, right back at you. I feel like maybe I've had too much coffee, and maybe that's why my mind
I
is
don't
just
think
all over the
that.
place.
Did you have the brain power today?
Yes, I did. I took
What
my,
is the problem?
I took my brain power, but I feel like it's too much. I'm overloaded.
You're not overloaded.
I'm definitely overloaded. My head's like all over the place. ways, more so than usual.
The pot was almost empty when I'm about to get more.
I've had so much coffee. Like, so much coffee.
I have coffee poisoning, Rick.
Anyhow. I feel like I look like I have tits.
Only to you, you do. On the camera, it just looks like a gray section.
I don't know.
And I
feel
just
like,
look like a big gray section with a
I feel
circle.
like I look like I've got like breasts. I don't know. I don't want to
Yeah,
do
that got
that.
weird.
Yeah, it got weird.
Just pick that person and turn them
Girl, bye. You already talked about
and
this.
turn them into what you want them to be.
No, definitely not that. If you truly, truly,
You
truly,
will always
no,
be single
goodbye.
if you do that.
No, yeah, you'll always be single. Getting back on track.
Mhm.
Can we get back on track? Okay, so in summary, I don't really know what else to say.
Well, I don't know what else to say.
I don't really have any more. I'm done.
Well, that was fun.
Thank you and good night.
I don't think you should even have that in the video.
I'm not gonna have that in the